Hello everyone, Nubkeks here. I'm going to give you a raid lead guide on Mythic's, I almost said Sludgefist, Stone Legion Generals, which we just killed. This is post-nerf. We are actually super close to beating it. We're progressing the final phase. And then the nerf came in and we killed the boss within an hour on Wednesday then, after reset. So yeah, the nerfs of this boss have made it a lot more forgiving, which is good because it was very, very, very punishing. In terms of your ad control, and even small mistakes were just horrible. So yeah, it's a lot better now. This is, I'm not sure now after the nerf, it's certainly, this is, even after the nerf, this is much harder than all the preceding fights. It's probably still harder than Denathrius as well, from what I know. But yeah, this fight's relatively tough. And it's a lot about ad control and understanding when to kill ads. So I'll try to break it down for you and hopefully give you a bit of a guide through and some different perspectives, because I know there's other guides out there and stuff like that. So for phase 1, we're looking to phaser out of P1 into intermission 1 around 1 minute 30, 1 minute 40, probably more like 1 minute 40. So you're getting Goliaths in this phase, and then skirmishers. The Goliath spawns on, like, just based off of pull on a whatever 10 seconds in or something, and then the second Goliath in this phase will spawn when she hits 75% health, or it will trigger the timer for it to spawn in. That was one of the hardest parts for us on progression, was that it's very difficult to progress P1. It's more forgiving now because the wins are slower. You'll see that, and you can heal through the Goliaths, like a 20% effectiveness. So you've got a bit of gameplay to play around, but until your DPS are comfortable, until they're being as efficient as they will be, which takes a bunch of pulls, as you guys probably know by now. Yeah, it's going to be very punishing. This Goliath comes in. So what we did for P1 was actually relatively simple. We went through a number of different variables and how to assign DPS and stuff like that. What we found worked for us because we actually had a fair bit of AoE. We had 2 Night Fae Hunters. We had like 2 Fire Mages. We actually brought in an Ellie Shaman for the kill. We have so much AoE, and with the winds being forgiving now, that we simply targeted down the Goliath and we just blew up the ads in AoE. We're tanking the boss over here on the side of the wall, which is beside where the skull ad spawns. So the skull ad sort of gets naturally staggered. We have a DK grip in the cross ad, which spawns over near the edge of the platform, which is behind us right now. And then the blue ad comes from the other side of the room. You can see the blue ad lives much longer for us here because it's not being gripped in. It doesn't naturally get cleaved as quickly, and that's fine. You want to stagger them out. And then we're killing this Goliath around about 40 seconds into the fight, right? Basically, what you want to do in P1, you can see we're actually off our timers here a little bit. We're a little bit slow this time, but you basically want to be killing this Goliath solidly before this meteor lands. We're very tight there, but that's sort of the goal. You really want to have all of these ads dead before the meteor arrives. It's hard to do, but you'll get used to it. Then for us, the second Goliath arrives around about then as well, which is totally fine. And then again, we're just blasting down that Goliath. Again, the goal is, once again, to kill this Goliath before the next crystallize, and preferably before this Ravenous Feast. Get him into taint mode at below 30% health, so he doesn't potentially one-shot someone with that. And then again, we are just cleaving these skirmishers the same as before. Basically what happens is when the Goliath hits 30% health, it goes into Soul Taint. Now Soul Taint stacks, I think, every second, and at 5 stacks, it used to make you completely immune to healing. You could not heal your party at all. Now it makes you 80% healing immune. So you can slightly heal people, but it's going to be very, very ineffective. Luckily, on top of them nerfing the bleeds, it's a lot more forgiving. I mean, basically what could happen before is you could easily have someone with like 2 or 3 bleeds through randomness, because the skirmishers randomly apply bleeds. And you could have someone with 3 stacks of bleed going into a Soul Taint, and it's just really hard to keep them alive. Stuff like that. It's a lot easier now. But yeah, you basically, once the Goliath goes into Taint, they need to be killed very quickly at that point. You can't leave them in Taint for long. I mean, look, you're just going to eventually die to damage when you can only do 20% healing. So they need to die quickly, which is what we did. Then these skirmishers, when they go below 20% health, they start to blow you with those winds. It's a lot more forgiving now than it used to be. But yeah, with the winds, you just have to sort of slightly run against them. and just make sure that you target those skirmishers down. So it's very, very, very important that whenever something goes into execute, that you are targeting it, right? You need to kill the Goliaths, right? When they go into execute, then you need to swap to the next skirmisher. Have them auto-marked, and you're killing them in order: skull, red, blue. You want to push them into their wins. You preferably want them to be killed before that. Again, with these first few sets, you can just blow up with AoE those skirmishers. And we didn't have any particularly major cooldown assignments for P1. Like the 2 fire mages are obviously blasting each set. We had we had a Fury Warrior who's blasting each set. Unholy DKs are blasting each set. We had a Frost DK as well, blast each set, so you're good. If you have longer cooldown classes, you will need to assign them. Coming into the intermission then, you're going to move over near the edge here. This is so you don't get knocked off when you dunk orbs. Okay, so you're going to be over near the edge. We tank the boss over here. This makes Wicked Blades easier to handle. And again, your goal here, once more, for P1, is to kill this Goliath before the Crystallize comes in. So just target him down. You may need to assign some CDs to single target him down. Preferably, you could kill him without any CDs. It really depends on your group. So you kill him before that. Again, with the Wicked Blades, because we're here, the Wicked Blades of the boss here, you just drop him in a triangle like this, yeah? Like this. And then for the Crystallize, move the Crystallize to the right-hand side of the group, closer to the boss. The tank who is tanking the boss needs to remove their bleed stacks from going in that Crystallize. So we soak this Crystallize. You can see that all these commandos are being built up. We are not DPSing the commandos, right? These commandos, you do not touch them. These commandos are your best friends. You want to just treat them with love and care, and you do not DPS the commandos. You let them build up. You let them build up until there's about 5. In fact, as you can see here, we actually have 6 because I guess we maybe phased a bit early. It doesn't really matter though, but generally speaking, you're waiting until after the meteor, so everyone is free of the stun. You're waiting for after the meteor for when there are 5 commandos minimum, and then you blow them the fuck up with AoE CDs. So marksmanship hunters with wild spirits here. You can see a PI and a marksmanship hunter. We also have a PI and a fire mage. I think that hunter's better, but fire mage works as well. So just you'll absolutely destroy these with AoE CDs. And again, you just need to blow them up. The way the commandos work, you'll see them more individually here when we start fighting them one by one. You can see very clearly here the Wicked Blades as well. I'll talk about this in a second. But yeah, the way the commandos work is once, again, they go to 20% health, they get a shield. This has been nerfed, so it's more forgiving. You'll see it here on this Skull Commando. Actually, maybe you won't because I'm a healer. Okay, there you go. You can see it goes this Volatile Stone Shell. It gets a shield. You must break the shield. If you don't break the shield, it explodes and it wipes the raid. Okay, so you need to target them down. Again, as you can see, with this first set, I'll show it to you again. You can see people actually pop CDs a little bit early, which is fine to ramp up, but just be careful. But you'll see that these guys are just going to absolutely explode. You can see the 2 PIs out on the raid frames, and boom, boom. These things are just cleaved down, AoE down. Yeah, you just explode them. This is the easiest way by far. Now, what happens when these die? They drop these orbs on the ground. You walk over the orb, pick it up, and you get this debuff. Again, this lasts longer now, so it's quite forgiving. Warlock Gateway over to Renathal because he does a knockback. Again, it's smaller AoE now, so more forgiving. But he does a knockback when you dunk the orb. So you gateway to Renathal, and then he knocks you back to the group, and you just stagger it. We had one of the officers. She was just laser focused on calling this, making sure people went in the right order. So for example, right here, it is possible that one of these players, like the next player in line, could get a Wicked Blade. They have to go do that. You have to call for the next person to go, and you just keep a steady stream. In P1, this is relatively easy. You get 3 stacks from the first Goliath. It should be dunked kind of before you do the blow up. So you kill the Goliath, people are doing the meteor, and if you don't have to soak, you can pick up the orb and dunk it and come back, yeah? Then you get 9. At this point, you are killing just one more commando, so kill off that commando, and then you're moving over to this gateway. The timing of this dunk is actually fairly important. Again, extra 5 seconds on this clock here makes it much easier to time it right. And I think you can leave the orbs for 20 seconds on the floor as well before they time out. What you need to do, you can dunk this. We could have dunked this even faster. If we were even faster, maybe just about before this Wicked Blade. You can see here that with our timers, this is too tight. So just simply wait for this Wicked Blade and then dunk it after the Wicked Blade. That's going to be the most consistent thing. If you dunk it too close to Wicked Blade, she's going to Wicked Blade you when you're all stacked up for the dunk, and you're going to die horribly. So here we go. They went to the Wicked Blade. We dunked the thing in. Everyone moves over here. The tank has jumped over as well. We have an AMZ down. You get knocked into the corner, and then you're into P2. The boss flies away. All the commandos die, so you absolutely 100% do not do any damage to extra commandos. You don't gain anything from it. The only thing that you gain is a serious chance of wiping your raid group because you push a commando into a shield and it explodes and murders you. P2 is kind of like P1. One thing that we never... it was never quite clear to me, but sometimes the spawn order of these skirmishers, sometimes they spawn way later in P2, which basically fucks you. You need these to spawn as you transition into P2. It seems to me to be relatively inconsistent or relatively finicky in terms of the timers, but generally speaking, if you dunk a good chunk before the 7th Wicked Blades, or if you're too close to the Wicked Blades, if you dunk right after the 7th Wicked Blades, you should be fine and the skirmishers should spawn. Sometimes they won't. I don't know, like 1 pull in 10, they wouldn't. And you're just kind of fucked, but that's just the way it is. So this phase is harder, I would say. This phase is certainly harder. So you're coming into this phase, you're going to have a crystallize pretty early on. So here you have to have more specific CD assignments, okay? And more specific targeting. What we're gonna do for this phase is we are generally going to kill the skirmishers first. This is where raid leading actually becomes quite important to shot call target swaps onto these skirmishers. It's more forgiving now, again, than it was because the wins aren't as bad, but that's quite important. And it's not going to be quite the same ever because you're going to have quite a lot of RNG in terms of who gets targeted by mechanics, which is going to affect your damage on these groups. What we did on this kill pull, funny enough, actually, I'll mention this now. For progression on this fight, by the way, so I was initially intending to play Holy Priest on this fight. It's actually a pretty decent fight for Holy Priest. In fact, I am playing Holy Priest here on the kill. But after the first few hundred, I think we had like a few hundred pulls or something. Like it was like at least a week or so of raiding. And we were just getting owned by P1. It was super inconsistent. And I had to basically say, okay, this is not working. As a raid lead, like the officer, one of our officers, or 2 officers were doing it, doing the raid leading, but it's like the fight is simply too hard and it's too specific. It used to be too hard. That you need a really laser focus in terms of altering damage cooldowns, assigning them at specific points. It was really punishing. So I swapped onto Shadow Priest, which isn't great on the fight. But then funny enough, after these nerfs, I figured it would be okay. And we're comfortable enough with the fight that we actually switched. One of our players was playing Resto Shaman. So we switched her back onto Ellie Shaman, which got buffed in 9.0.5. And obviously with the nerfs that came this week after Hall of Fame closed, I think Ellie Shaman is actually really good. And yeah, one of the big reasons for Resto Shaman is that you can heal through the taint. Spirit Link still works just as normal when the taint is up from the Goliaths. So you could use, having 2 Spirit Links was huge for progress, right? It was absolutely huge for progress because it would let you survive through the taint when otherwise, like if someone has 2 stacks of this bleed like he has here and the Goliath goes into taint, if that Goliath doesn't die really fast, he's just going to die because you couldn't have healed him before. Now you can keep them alive just barely. So that makes a big difference. Yeah. Anyway, in this phase, we're on these things. Most people are killing the skull skirmisher. For our particular comp here, for this particular night, I put the 3 Death Knights were targeting down Cross. 3 Death Knights were specifically hitting on Cross. And then once Cross was low enough on health relative to Blue, I'd call for them to switch back to Skull. Prior to these pulls, when I was playing Shadow Priest, I targeted Cross as a Shadow Priest, and that was mostly enough to do it. You just have to alter this based on your own comp. It's going to be important. You can actually see here, for example, that fucking Blue got annihilated, I think by a full moon or something. I'm not sure, but Blue got absolutely annihilated. So right here, you can see this is where shot calling becomes really, really important, right? And it's difficult to do because the boss frames are fucked and you can only have 5 things, so that when the Goliath comes in, it pushes one of the ads off the boss frames. It's fucking terrible. Pain in the ass on Shadow, by the way, because you're trying to multi-dot and it's like, ugh. Anyway, whatever. But yeah, right there, something fucked up Blue. So we had to, instead of targeting Cross, we had to target Blue. So Yeah, you have to call for that. Generally speaking, the rule is to target the lowest health skirmisher at all times for most DPS, especially once they go into execute. Sometimes something random like that can happen and blue pushes instead, so you have to call switch to blue, kill fucking blue. Your job as the raid lead really is to make that as easy as possible for people. So yeah, you kind of spam call a little bit when things go a bit crazy like that. Anyway, you finish that stuff off. We killed the Goliath as well. So what were the timings there? So we're coming into this. You can see Skull dies really fast. Blue got fucked up by something. But you just kill them off. Finish these off. Then we're on to the Goliath. The Wicked Blades are much easier in this phase because they are coming from the back of the room. They're coming from like the statue on the edge. So you just have the two players. We tank the boss near the middle of the room. And then the two players targeted by Blade just move back from the group, right? Towards the edge from the group, just spread enough that they're not going to cleave each other with Wicked Blade, and you're totally fine. In P1, I don't think I mentioned, but you're tanking the stuff over here, and Wicked Blade comes out in like a triangle, like over here in the middle of the room. And it's the same sort of thing in P3. Eruptions, then, you need a weak aura for this that will assign. That's what this list is up in the top left. The list in the top left, you'll see here in a second, that's what this is. That's basically the assignments we used for these. So we had mages first, which means the mages are going to do these soaks up here, which are far away. So they're going to be the hardest ones to do in the intermission, but mages are a completely OP class, so they can do it easily. And here we go, the next set of skirmishers. This eruption, what this does, every time you get one of these eruptions, it leaves a pool. These pools are basically permanent. They can be up to 8. So basically we have 4 markers along this side of the wall and then 4 markers on the other side of the room. These are all the drop points for the thing. And you can see, for example, with this weak aura, Thovald is assigned to Star, so he will go and soak this one. Now, if Thovald is targeted by the new eruption, it will call one of the backups, and which for us, I actually put in our Mistweaver monk would do it, because again, Mistweaver, very, they've got their 2 charges of roll, they can transcend back to the group, tons of movement, they can handle it. Pretty solid defensives. You can use pretty much whatever you want here. But yeah, it's up to you. One thing to note for this P2 as well, for the first set of skirmishers on that first Goliath, we had, for example, like the Balance Druids with pop CDs. I think Affliction Warlock pop CDs. This one is more important in the sense that this is where your Wild Spirit Marksmanship Hunter should go on the second set of skirmishers. Basically, they are going to blow Wild Spirits in Intermission 1 to help you kill commandos. Then they pretty much blow it on cooldown on this next set of skirmishers in order to get it back for Intermission 2. So that's kind of important. It actually matters quite a lot. You really make sure, find a log which is similar to your group, see where they use their damage cooldowns and copy that. It's very important. Very important. There's actually a good visual. You can see these 2 eruptions right there, yeah? You can see the 2 eruptions, one on Star, one on Orange, and the mages are going to be assigned to those, again, for the rest of the fight, basically. For the rest of the fight. And yeah, stuff kind of continues like this. Seismic Upheaval, we use a weak aura. You guys have obviously beaten Council of Blood. Well, you've beaten both, but you've obviously beaten Council of Blood. This is literally the same as the Dark Recital, except you don't need to stack on each other. So you just stack up on a point behind the boss for Seismic Upheaval. You have a weak aura that tells you whether to go right or left, and you go there. You do that. You go right or you go left, and you just run around. And that's it. Simple as that. This set is nasty. This is the final set of P2. So what happens with this is you get the Goliath will spawn in. You'll also have these skirmishers. Now, this is, again, where you have to do some raid leading, some decision-making on the fly, because based off of the RNG and how the phase has been going so far will determine the Goliath health, right? Because the Goliath spawn timer, and therefore how much damage you can get into him before this third set of skirmishers arrive, is going to be dependent on how much damage you did to the boss, which is also going to be somewhat dependent on what sort of damage profiles you have in your group, okay? In this particular case, I think this Goliath is low enough. Generally speaking, what we were trying to do, for the most part, was to not push the Goliath below 30% until this seismic was over. Okay, try not to push him until the seismic was over. Why? Because he goes into Soul Taint. What happens when he's in Soul Taint? You need to kill him as quickly as possible. You're not going to be able to kill him as quickly as possible if half of your raid are running around the room trying to avoid the seismic upheaval, okay? So generally, this is actually pushing it a bit too quickly. It should really be everyone gets back and then you push the stuff through. again, having a good chunk of AoE CDs in here. So for example, fire mages. Yeah, we've got a PI combustion on this set, for example. That sort of thing is going to rip through these guys and AoE this stuff down cleanly. Again, the goal here, you can see we're triggering a few. I think before the nerfs, this would have been a guaranteed wipe. With the nerfs, though, you can see that's a lot easier to handle. But yeah, that's one of the nastiest timers, because you're kind of killing the skirmishers, killing the Goliath at the same time. So again, just as the raid leader, prioritizing the targets, okay? So generally speaking, I would say the general rule of thumb would be you want to kill that Goliath ASAP to get rid of Taint. You can live with one skirmisher blowing winds, but you're going to need to hard swap onto like Skull Skirmisher should be the first one dying. You're going to need to hard swap onto that and finish it off if you see that red or blue are approaching the winds as well. Because if two skirmishers start blowing their winds and they're not going to die within a couple of seconds, one of them's not going to die within a couple of seconds, it's going to get pretty bad pretty fast. If you push all three skirmishers into winds, you're dead. Like, game over. So yeah. That's what I would recommend. You just, raid leader, need to pay attention to that, and you need to try to call for people to target swap, and your raid team just needs to be quick target swapping to deal with it. That P2 is quite difficult. That's probably, in my opinion, that's the hardest part of the fight. There's quite a lot of movement, and the kill timings on those ads is very, very punishing. Coming into Intermission 2, it's pretty much the same. So we're dealing with Wicked Blade, pretty much the same here at the back of the room. They just go further back. They can go up onto the ledge here. We're going to tank stuff near the middle of the room. Again, you've got a bit of flexibility in where you move. You just don't want to be too close to Renathal, otherwise you'll get knocked off the edge of the platform. And again, the goal here, once more, is to kill this Goliath before the Crystallize comes in. That's very important. No damage on commandos. You do not damage commandos. This is the exact same as Intermission 1. No damage on the commandos. Literally 0 is pure single target on the Goliath. The Goliath needs to be dead before the Crystallize. There we go. We get him down. You can see that that's quite spooky, right? Because you're doing the eruption and you've got that stuff going off. There's going to be Wicked Blades. It's going to be scary. It's going to be tough. So for example, right here, you can see even with no damage on the commandos, the Skull Commando is getting kind of low. So that is a bit spooky. Dunk this orb before. And basically what we're going to do here, very simple, is you are going to soak the Crystallize, remove the bleeds, soak the Meteor. You have an eruption that follows. After the eruption, you try to get everyone back and then blast on the ads. I think we have to go a little bit early here because Skull is sort of slowly ticking down, which is pretty much from the tanks doing their rotation and maintaining active mitigation. It's very important no one else damages them. Obviously, you've got people that need to damage stuff. You can see here that we push this stuff too quickly. Like, that's not good. But like, a Disc Priest is going to need to do damage to stuff to heal effectively. I mean, they could hit off General Grishal if you're super struggling. But I mean, a Disc Priest and a tank should not be enough to push an ad into phase early. It's probably DPS fucking around and being greedy bastards. But yeah, after that, you're going to be dunking stuff. Now, here's one difference. Here's another difference. So we do the exact same thing, though. Again, you can see we got a little spicy there because we pop stuff early. So imagine that you're popping these dudes like 5 seconds later than this. Again, same as P1 intermission. You just AoE them down, blow them all up, make sure you are target swapping. Healers help out with some damage as well. You can see I'm using Shadow Word Death on stuff, whatever. Try to get that stuff down. And we're back to dunking orbs with a gateway. You have to replace your gateway here from the middle over there. You should do it as soon as you phase into Intermission 2. Now, where this gets tricky, well, it's not that tricky, but just something to be aware of. Like right now, Dead Oogle and Alistraza cannot dunk their orbs because people have to go for these eruptions. I actually think that maybe after this nerf you could get away with it, but certainly pre-nerf, if you dunked while people are going for these eruptions, they would get hit by the knockback that it triggers whenever you dunk an orb, and they would be killed, and you would wipe. You would be dead. So that's very important. Also, try not to phase commandos around the eruptions. Wait for people to get back. If you push a commando into shield, and you've got like 8 of your damage dealers are running to the edges of the room to go soak these circles, you're not going to be able to kill that shield. So also watch for that. I think I was actually kind of bad at calling that in this pull, most likely. There's a downside of healing. I was not paying enough attention to it. Should have been paying more attention. Anyway, but yeah, so you can let some of these expire in this intermission. It's fine. You're going to be fine. You can make it work. And then basically what you're looking to do is, again, once you get your last orb, you're timing it around these eruptions or wicked blades is basically what you're doing. So for example, right here, I think we did the eruption. we're going to wait for the Wicked Blade, and then we're actually just going to dunk straight away. Okay, pretty ballsy. I like it. This made me laugh. Physics. I was like, wait, what? Physics. So I wouldn't say it's even greedy. It's just wrong. Like greedy implies that that you might not get away with it, and you do it anyway because you're being greedy. That wasn't greedy. I literally thought I was fine. Like it was just plain wrong. So make sure you are in the corner. Otherwise, the knockback will just send you along the wall. There's zero friction, and you will die. So that was kind of stupid. Anyway, we come into phase 3. Phase 3 is actually not that bad. It's not that bad. You don't have any Goliaths, which are one of the harder things to deal with. You have both of the bosses, but let's be honest, you're going to have had lots and lots and lots of pulls on this boss by now, so you'll be used to dealing with these mechanics. The hardest thing at this point is definitely the soaks. There are all the soaks at this point. From the 9th one onwards, you're just going to drop them in front, so there's going to be like one over near star and one over near orange in front. The old ones will disappear. So you can see, for example, Ymira here with the eruption. She's just going to place it near star. And then after that, look at that. The star one disappears. And then same thing. The next one will go in front of orange. The orange one will disappear. And then like whatever Thovald on star next time is just going to be soaking this one, for example. Okay. You get the idea. But yeah, coming into this phase, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's chaotic, but it's not as bad as it looks, I will say. You kill off this first set of skirmishers. And then after that point, you're just on the bosses, okay? So again, it's the exact same as P2 skirmishers, really. Kill Skull, have your three people or whatever your DPS assignments happen to be. Focus on Cross, make sure Cross is spaced out from blue, and you just finish them off one by one, push them into wins one by one, kill them off one by one, and you'll be fine. Wicked Blades go out to the right-hand side. So it's the same as P1 Wicked Blades, just you're starting in the middle of the room. And yeah, you'll have one set of these heart rends. I think they're not too bad. The healers can just sort of slowly heal them. It's not too bad. It's fine. We bloodlust after the first set of eruptions, which is basically going to, carry you through a good chunk. I think it makes the most sense. This is one thing to watch for, is that you do have this seismic. So some DPS might want to save their CDs till after seismic. Like a fire mage can mostly get away with it. They'll lose some uptime on rune. Like I can see one fire mage has lost uptime on rune, for example. Actually, they both did. So that's something to just watch out for. Honestly, though, it's not too important, right? Your main goal is simply to use your CDs with this bloodlust to finish off those skirmishers, and then you'll be fine. So here we go. These are the Wicked Blades. So the first one went really far back. That's the wrong way. That went the wrong way. It should be just more over here, so it's not going to risk clipping anyone, but we got away with it. And yeah, at this point, it's just handle the eruptions, do your meteors as before. It's easiest to just soak them. You can grip them if you need, but it's easier to just soak. And yeah, the seismics are going to keep doing their thing. So I actually ran over here. I got spooked because of the star marker on me. So I just went a safety thing. Yeah, the seismics are going to go do their thing. They can be pushed. There can be winds triggered during these seismics. Like the previous seismic, you can have winds during it. Can be something to watch out for. This set of skirmishers, final set, the second set, even in P3, don't touch him. They're going to you can see they're naturally dying to the natural AoE that happens. Like a fire mage in combustion, ignite spreads. There's nothing to do. Phoenix flames cleaves. There's nothing to do about it. But he's not flame striking. He's pyroblasting the boss. That sort of thing is something to watch out for. Like Abomination Limb does AoE. There's no getting around that. Like whatever. Void Eruption does AoE. You can't stop it. And yeah, I mean, that's basically it. So you can see it actually got a bit spicy there that these ads were pushing in. If the boss was healthier, then you would simply, again, as Raidley, just adapt and call and actually just kill them off. It's not a huge deal if you need to kill them off. But as you can see, you can easily kill the boss without needing to kill these things. But if the bosses were still at like 10% health, then absolutely just go switch to Skull, kill off Cross probably, presuming it's lower, and then Blue, and then go back on the boss. You're just handling these mechanics as you were before. So yeah, that is the fight, guys. That's the fight. So P1 is kind of just like, preferably you will just blast AoE and smash all the ads with the Goliath, aiming to just have everything dead before the crystallize. That's really your goal. Most importantly, the Goliath dead before the crystallize so you can heal stuff. Assign Spirit Link to wherever you struggle most with Goliath, because Spirit Link keeps you alive during Taint. We Mass Dispel the Heartrend with this, by the way. I didn't mention that, but I Mass Dispel the Heartrend there, and it's fine. I think the healer just got knocked off the edge by something. Yeah, second set is the same sort of thing. Whatever, you're just sort of blasting them. There's very little mechanics in this phase, so they should be easy enough to kill off before they crystallize. Phase the boss through. Intermission 1, you're just over near the edge. Wicked Blades go over there. Single target. No random padding. Nothing. Like, this commando, he's your best friend. It's your pal. Bess. Don't hurt Bess. She's lovely. Single target that Goliath down. Get him dead. Kill him off. Don't touch the commandos until you AoE blast them, which should come in when there are a minimum of 5 commandos after the meteor. Blow them up. Have someone call for dunks. Gateway in. Dunk. Get knocked back out. Blades still do their thing. Whatever. Last commando. Finish him off. Move over. Wait for Wicked Blade 7 if you need to. Dunk it after or before, depending on your timings. Go into P2. P2. You're killing off the skirmishers. Generally first. Skull. Then cross. Again, you need to assign some DPS to cross. Call to switch to a different target if you need someone to switch to a different target. Like, for example, on some polls, for example, the DKs were killing cross too fast. It was even going to die before skull. So you call them, you say DKs, swap on to skull. And yeah, one thing that our team didn't really do, which probably should have, would be for the crystallize to drop them like off to the side slightly so that, you know, it's easy. Not so far that, you know, you have to run to soak it, but so that, you know, if they move and then people go in to help soak, it's just less movement. Anyway, and whatever. Yeah, just have your markers out, dropping this stuff. Seismic upheaval, you stack. It's the exact same as Dark Recital. You've done it before. Weak auras help make it clear. Run around. Everyone else steps to it. It's literally Dark Recital. You've done it already. You know what to do. And again, this set of skirmishers is mostly important for marksmanship, hunter timings. And again, this is the nasty set. This is the nasty set where you have the Goliath. They've just done the eruption. You're coming back in. Goliath and skirmishers have spawned. Don't pop CDs yet because you're going to have a seismic. So you're going to lose out on timing. So deal with the seismic. Go around and then try to keep them all out of their execute phase, and then blast them when you come back is going to be better. So, for example, this fire mage, he has less pulls on the fight. He actually played Frost for a good chunk of the fight. And then we switched to double fire mage strat. So he was actually filling in tonight. But for example, I can see here in the replay, he made a mistake there that he popped his thing too early, lost some value, and that probably helped push them through, which is not good. You pop it afterwards. So after this, you've got some time here. You've got a chunk of time where you can just sort of freely blast them down. Then you just need to go and deal with the eruption. But yeah, this is where you blast them. That's what worked for us. It was most consistent. Finish them off. And then your Intermission 2. Intermission 2 is pretty much the same as 1 plus these eruptions. So you're pretty simply just single target down the Goliath, dunk the orb. Then you're super patient. Wait for after the eruption, after the meteor. Then you blast the stuff. Again, big AoE blast. Cleave them the fuck down. You see the Frostworm fucking nukes those shields, by the way. It's awesome. Lots of specs, so kind of great stuff here. And again, you are dunking, but you will have to pause your dunks. Let some of these orbs, they will probably expire when you deal with these eruptions. That's fine. We had lots of wipes as well from people moving out of the eruption early. I believe it starts here in the middle and then it spreads out. So just make sure the eruption has gone off before you move back in. If you move out early, everyone dies. So, and yeah, one thing actually I didn't mention, but we use grips on the second crystallize of each intermission. So you'll see it right here. So I don't do it. The other priest does it. You can see, for example, here's the crystallize. She's out to the side and then she gets gripped in. I think one of the mages soaked it and then ice blocked out to remove their bleed, I think. So you can do stuff like that. And then don't stop here. I guess it's bad geometry. I was thinking he was like to my side and I'd be knocked here into this wall. I think he's actually more knocked like in this direction. Don't do this. Don't do this. And then you're into P3. Let's actually watch. Let's watch me die. Boink. Nyom. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yeah, then P3, again, just handle the stuff as before. Wicked Blades out to the side like P1. Handling eruptions, just as you have been. Handling, you can see that's a good Wicked Blades. Handling Seismic as you have been. Kill one set of skirmishers. Do not kill the second. Make sure you do the soaks, and you're home free. Guys, thank you for watching. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me know any questions you have in the comments, and I will try to answer them for you. I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.